what can the GUIDEcx Salesforce integration do? There's a lot of things it can do, and I put together about a dozen different things in this demo to let you see kind of a good collection of the type of things that we've implemented for customers already. So at a high level, there's three different things you can think about what the integration does. There's the concept of creating a project automatically in GUIDEcx. So like a opportunity moves close one, create a project in GUIDEcx. And while we're doing that, we can do things like automatically select the template based upon whatever the criteria is you want. Automatically select the project manager. We can do task assignments automatically so that you don't have to. Then also we can do things like pull values out of Salesforce, out of, say, the opportunity, the account, and put them into custom fields over in GUIDEcx. And then we can invite automatically customer users to the project. So we get, like, if you have contacts on the opportunity or the account, we can pull contacts off, invite those as users. And I'm going to show how you can use a feature of Salesforce called Opportunity Contacts, where you can put multiple contacts, you can link multiple contacts to the opportunity, and then you can select within Salesforce roles for those contacts. Because you could have 10 contacts on the opportunity. You don't want to invite all of them, but you can selectively invite people to the project automatically. Then we can also, once we've invited a customer user to the project, we can automatically assign them all the customer tasks. And then it's great to have a way of notifying yourself and the team that a project's been created. And so I'm going to show how you can do that with Slack. So when the project's created, a message will go out to Slack notifying the internal team. So that's the first part, is just automatically creating the project and then doing the typical little things that you would do yourself. You go create a project and then you say, oh, okay, I need to go and populate a few custom fields or maybe assign tasks, whatever those normal things that you just do over and over and over again after you've created the project. Well, we can probably automate those steps. So that's the first part. And then the next is, okay, after the project is created, there's the concept of just syncing all the standard fields of the project back from GUIDEcx to Salesforce. So things like the status of the project manager's name, its start date of the project, forecasted end date, and status of all the tasks and so forth. And then third, after the project's created, we could do additional custom field syncing and other custom automations. So for example, we can sync custom field updates that you make in GUIDEcx over to someplace in Salesforce. And we could, I'm going to show you here that not only during the project creation am I going to have it automatically assign tasks in GUIDEcx, but then if a role is changed in Salesforce, update the task assignments in GUIDEcx. And then the final thing I'm going to show is as we complete milestones in GUIDEcx, we're actually going to update a field on the account to keep everybody informed of how the progress of the project. Okay, so let me show this in action. So here's the template that I'm going to create a project from. And a couple of things about this template. Notice there's no assignees in the template. So if you have assignees in your template, then when you create a project with this template, those assignees come over to the real project. In this case, I don't have any people assigned. And that's pretty typical on any project. You might not know who you want to assign until the moment you're creating the project. Now, I do have some task tags here. Some are blue, some are green. The blue ones, they all are named TAM, so like Technical Account Manager. And the green ones are all named CSM, Customer Success Manager. So those are a couple of fields in Salesforce, and we're going to use those to automatically assign all these tasks that have these colored labels on them. And then just finally notice that there's some customer tasks. So when we invite a customer user, we're going to automatically assign the tasks. So just to show you in Salesforce, here's the account for this project. So here's those fields. So I have a field called CSM, a field called TAM. So I want those tasks that have those colors on those tags to automatically be assigned to these users. And then something else to notice, I have a couple of custom fields here on the account. I've got one called onboarding status and one called required integrations. So as we mark tasks done in GUIDEcx, this onboarding status field is going to be automatically populated. And then I'm going to update something in GUIDEcx that's going to update this required integrations one. So that's the account. And then if we look at opportunities, I've got a opportunity created that I'm going to move to close one here next. But just one thing to notice about it is I've utilized Salesforce's contact roles feature. So I've got two contacts. So these are like my customers. I've got two contacts on the opportunity. One of them I've identified a role for called a business user in this case. And the integration is going to automatically invite any contact with the role business user to the project. And it's going to assign them the tasks for the customer tasks. So I think that's the only things. Yep. Okay. So let's move this opportunity to closed one. And then that's going to create a project here. And it's going to start doing all the other magic. So let's come back over here and go to projects. And let's see here. You might take a moment to trigger. Okay, I think it's triggered then. Okay, so here's the project. It's automatically created. And then, so watch all of these task assignments here. So right now, nobody's assigned, but the integration is going to start reading who's that CSM, who's that TAM, and assign them to these tasks that have the colored task tags. It's going to invite the customer to the project. So let's give it 20 seconds or so and see what it does. There we go. Okay, so it's figured out who's that TAM person from Salesforce. It's assigning them tasks. Who's the CSM? It's assigning them tasks. It's going to assign all the other tasks internally to the project manager. So you see, so we didn't have any labels there. And it invited our customer user to the project and assigned them all the customer tasks. So these would be some of the things that you normally would have to do yourself when you create the project. And then let's take a look at custom fields. Okay, so we specified in the recipe that we wanted to populate these custom fields automatically. So you may have noticed that I had like the amount on the opportunity was $10,000. So we're pulling all these values over and automatically populating the custom fields for you. And then let's see, we want to, okay, let's start showing you how we can sync some custom things back to Salesforce. Okay, so you remember I had I had on the account, let's go back to the account. I had a field here called onboarding status. And I want to have that basically tell anybody in Salesforce how things are coming along on the project. So I'm going to mark these tasks done here in the first milestone. So the idea is that I want to know when each of these milestones is completed. And when a milestone is completed, then I want to have it come over here and update that field. Okay, so let's look over in the account. And there we go. It says pre-sales complete. And if I go and update these other milestones, it'll say other things that I've specified, like, oh, the kickoff's complete, verification's complete, that sort of thing. So people that live in Salesforce, they may want to know some of that granular detail of like milestone status, and there you go, you've got it. And then another thing that I mentioned earlier was that there was a custom field that I wanted to be able to update called required integrations. And let's say that I write a value in here. It's like, oh, okay, this customer wants to use our Salesforce integration. Okay, so we'll update that custom field. And so not only have we updated a custom field that's in GUIDEcx, see, there's the value. it's going to come over here and update the same field on the account. So there it is. So we've got two different types of custom updates going on here. You've got when an event happens in GUIDEcx, like a task is marked done or a milestone is completed, go and do something in Salesforce, go update some field. We could have had it go and create an activity here, like a note or an event on the account. So one type of syncing, custom syncing, an activity or an event happens in GUIDEcx, do something in Salesforce. The other was a custom field is updated in GUIDEcx, go do something in Salesforce. And that something was to update this field. Now, remember I did that automatic task assignment when the project was created. So we assigned all the TAM tasks to Montgomery here, but let's say that this later changes. So I'm going to come in here and say, well, okay, I want to actually update the TAM on the account. And wouldn't it be really nice if automatically we updated those same fields or same assignees over in GUIDEcx. So let's give that a few seconds and okay, there you go. So all of these blue tasks that were my TAM, they were automatically updated. So now we've got really custom bidirectional syncing going. Okay, so that's kind of like some of the custom syncing that you can do. But then there's just the default syncing you get whenever you create a project. So let's say that you have somebody in Salesforce, salesperson is over in Salesforce. They just live in Salesforce all day and they're looking at the opportunity. Well, they would like to know how the project's come along. Well, when the project's created, this little section right here was created on the opportunities, showing that, oh, there's a GUIDEcx project. Here's the status when it's projected to end, but we can also just click into that and you've got virtually all the standard fields from GUIDEcx projects and tasks are syncing over to this custom object in Salesforce. So we have things like the name of the project, who's the project manager, what's the status, cash value of it, which account and opportunity is it linked to. And then we have various dates like the projected end date, start date, who's on the project, all of this sort of detail that you might like to see. And then also some great things like we can see all of the tasks. So remember I marked 3 of the tasks done in the project a little while ago. Okay, so we've got their status is synced over and we can see when we actually marked them done. And so you've got all this great data that is syncing over to Salesforce. And once it's in Salesforce, you could put it in your own custom reports in Salesforce because all the data is living there. And so people on the team that just live in Salesforce, they can see all the project and task status and so forth, how things are coming along without ever leaving the Salesforce environment. All right, let me see. Was there anything else we talked about there? Oh, I missed one thing, Slack. Okay, so if we go over here in Slack, okay, so notice what happened right here. So this happened at the moment the project was being created. We have a Slack bot that wrote a nice little message over here that said, hey, everybody, a new project was created. And here's the name of the project. Here's who's the customer, the project manager, cash value. So this could be customized to say whatever it is you would like to say. And then if they click on this link, it brings them over into the project so that you can get easy access to the project. So that's just an example of how we can send custom messages to Slack. We could also do things like we can send notes from GUIDEcx to Slack if you wanted to. So somebody writes a note on the project, have it send it to their a particular person's Slack channel. Like if somebody's app mentioned on the project in GUIDEcx, have that same note sent over to somebody's private channel in Slack. Or maybe you want all the, every time a customer adds a note on a project, maybe you want that to go to a Slack channel that's been specifically made for that project. So, and that can be done. So as soon as the project's created, the integration can create a brand new Slack channel and take all the team members off the project and invite them to that Slack channel. So there's a lot of different possibilities like that. So that's just a few of the ideas, things that we can do. So before I move to the next part about how you kind of get started doing some of this yourself, any questions about any of the capabilities that we just showed there? And Neon, you feel free to ask questions too.
Yeah, I guess question I might have all right. I should have
I
started
put you on the spot.
question, or yeah. I should have asked this question earlier, but are both of you integrated with Salesforce already, or are you just exploring? Where are you guys at with that?
We've started integrating for the purpose of kind of showing project status in a dashboard in Salesforce. So similar to what Jeff was saying, so that people who don't leave Salesforce will have that visibility. And then recently started automating project creation as well.
Cool.
Yeah, we have an integration with Salesforce, but I'm looking to improve the recipe I have, and then we're actually going to use the other workspace we just got for a different Salesforce that I'll need to build that out.
Okay, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. How are these these ideas, are there light bulbs going off in your head?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah, the Slack channel is a great idea. Great idea, actually, so people don't have to be searching through and saying, did this create a project? Did this do that? I don't know. It's kind of the visibility there is a really good idea.
Yeah. I knew Jeff was smart, but I didn't know he was this smart. This is amazing, Jeff. I love this.
Yeah, we save a few tricks for the webinars. So that was something new.
Love it.
Yeah. So the way to kind of think about it is, if you can write down on a sheet of paper the things that you normally do manually after you create the project, then well, it's quite possible you can automate that. So how do you get started doing this? Well, really, the first step is just to connect GUIDEcx and Salesforce. So there's two places you have to connect, and one is the integrations tab. So if you navigate to the three dots on the top left of GUIDEcx, you come over to integrations, and you click on the three dots on the Salesforce tab. Then you can enter your Salesforce admin credentials. And it doesn't have to be an admin per se. Salesforce does give you 5 free integration user licenses. So this is something they started doing last year. And you can create an integration user. You can tune the permissions of that user. And then that's kind of convenient, because then every time changes are being made in Salesforce, you can see what user, and it's going to show up as the integration user. But that's the first place you have to connect, the integrations tab. The second place you have to connect is within Recipe Builder itself. And you just go to hit the three dots again on the top left of GUIDEcx, select Recipe Builder, and then there's a folder there called Home Assets. And then if you go in there, you can press this green Create button and select Connection, and then search for Salesforce and click on it. And then you just hit the Connect button and enter your credentials, Salesforce credentials, the same way. And then once those two connections are made, then the recipes can do everything we talked about, of both creating projects automatically and syncing the status back over to Salesforce. And but really, we'd like to help you out and customize this and help you get started on it, because typically we can set up a call. It's like an hour, 90 minutes, and go through our standard recipes and customize them and do all the same sort of stuff that we just showed you. So if you want to get started with all this and really unharness this sort of magic, thing to do is reach out to your CSM, ask for a working session to set up the Salesforce recipes. And then before that working session call, here's some of the things that you really need to think about. And once again, the big picture is, if you write it down on a sheet of paper, so to speak, like, when I create a project, what do I do actually? Okay, for example, for your templates, if you go and create a project manually in GUIDEcx today, how do you decide which templates to put on the project? For example, if product X is on the opportunity, do you place template 1 on the project? But if product Y is on the opportunity, you place templates 2 and 3 on the project, those sort of things, because we can easily just customize the recipe to put that business logic into it and pick the right templates. Sometimes it gets more complicated, like you have various product codes on the opportunity products object, and that's actually easy to pull off of Salesforce opportunity as well, because the integration can read custom objects in Salesforce. It can read related objects. It can read all the fields. So if you can describe where the data is in Salesforce, then when working together on a working session, we can pull the appropriate data out, make these decisions, and apply the correct templates. And then the same question goes for the project manager. So how do you pick the project manager if you were going to create a project manually? And where does that data live over in Salesforce? Is it going to be a certain type of certain tier customer, is a certain project manager, those sort of things. Then another thought is custom fields. So when a project's created, would you like us to pull values out of Salesforce and populate GUIDEcx custom fields with those values? If so, then just write down before a working session, okay, what are the custom fields in GUIDEcx that I want to populate? What object do the values live in Salesforce? What fields on those objects do the values live in Salesforce? And then it's easy for us to set up that custom field syncing. And on custom fields, we can sync it both at the time of we're creating the project, but then we can sync it after the project's been created. I showed you some of that in the demo, where I updated a custom field in GUIDEcx, and it updated the equivalent field in Salesforce. You can have it the opposite way. I can update a field in Salesforce, and it updates a custom field in GUIDEcx. And then finally, a common thing that we set up for customers is automatically inviting customers. So think that through. So if you do want to automatically invite customers to the project, where do those contacts live? So you can also be selective, like I showed. So you don't have to invite all the contacts, but you can specify that only some of them are going to be invited because they have a certain role in Salesforce. So that's the big thing. A lot of times thinking through this takes you a little bit more long time than it does us to actually configure the recipe, because you might just need to kind of sit down and really think about, how do I create these projects? What am I looking for in Salesforce? Should I go, create a new field in Salesforce to record where, like, something that's going to help us pick the project manager, that sort of thing. And then we get on the call and we share our screen. We walk through step by step, configuring the recipe while asking you these questions. And then we run a test and see that it creates a project and does everything like I showed in the demo. When the test is successful, we turn it on and you're live. So that's basically the process at a high level. So at this point, we'll just do any Q&A you'll have.
So I have a question.
Awesome.
Okay, so about the different templates and creating a project based on a field in the opportunity is what we're doing, and depending on what that, field says, we need different templates and different project managers. I mean, I have the logic built in, but it's not pretty. What's the best way to do that? Is it a lookup table?
It depends upon how complicated it is. A lot of times, just like the if statements in a recipe
Right.
is completely sufficient.
Which is what I have, but it's like it could be 4 different values, and if we change one little thing, I have to change it 4 places in the recipe when it comes to creating a project. So I was just wondering if there's and anything after the project too. If I'm gonna, it's just a huge recipe. It's kind of like, is there a better way to do that?
Yeah. So if like if I go into a let's see, let me go and show you like the recipe that was creating this. Okay, here's the actual recipe that we ran here in the demo.
Mhm.
So sometimes you might put something in a recipe multiple times. You really don't have to put it in multiple times. So let's see. First off, let me see if I've got any interesting kind of if logic here or variables. Okay. Like, okay, well, one thing here is, okay, I created a variable here for the opportunity ID. And then every time after that, I reference that I need to reference the opportunity ID. I grab it from here. And the reason I'm doing that is that I actually then can make a copy of this whole recipe, manually fill in this opportunity ID, run the recipe, and it's going to create the project going through every step of the recipe, just like it would have automatically. But I've got the ability to manually just say, well, I want to go and create one for a certain opportunity. I don't even want to have to update that opportunity. But here we're looking at the opportunity type, and if it's new customer, I'm selecting the project manager and a template. If it's a opportunity type something else, then I'm selecting the project manager and the template. So I would think that, like in the case where you say that, well, I've got some complicated logic, and then that adjusts multiple things. Okay, so notice what I did here. I mean, this is easy logic. Opportunity type is new customer. I'm doing 2 things with that. I'm not having 2 if statements. I've got one that I do multiple actions afterwards. I mean, you could have, like, let's say you had something complicated. You could have an if statement that's capturing some complicated logic, and then, like, if it's true, then set some variable to yes. And then later in the recipe, you're just looking to see, is that variable yes or no? And then if you ever do want to change the logic, you just have to go change it one place, the original place that you would define that yes or no variable.
Yeah, so variables.
Mm-hmm.
So the template SKU list would be like especially important because that would be used later depending on which one it's looking at. Like because each of mine is going to have a different template like list.
Yes. So what we're doing here is we've created a list called template SKUs, and I have initially just added one item to it.
Okay.
But then I don't think I do it here, but what we can do is say, okay, if later, like I had some other condition, if something or the other, then I can say that I want to add an item to the list. And let's see, I'm going to add an item here. I can add another, template SKU here. So I can create a list once, and then I can just continuously add more items to the list. And then down at the end where we're creating the project, it's just referencing that list.
Oh, okay.
And
Great.
So definitely you
Okay,
should not be trying to
perfect.
figure out how to do this on your own because we've already done it. I mean, since
Yeah.
we've done this, scores and scores of times,
Yeah.
we've created this reference recipe that captures a lot of these very common scenarios and best practices, such as create a template list
Mhm.
throughout the rest of the recipe, add items, template SKUs to that list. And then at the end, you just have this simple formula right here, which is saying, give me all the template SKU names.
Mhm.
I only want the unique ones though. I don't want to like add a template twice and
Okay,
add all those to the project.
great. And that's in the community recipe?
Yes, yes. Yeah,
Great.
this is just a
Awesome.
slightly modified version of the
Okay,
template, I mean, of the recipe that's in the community.
perfect.
All right, any other questions?
I did have one question about the use of tags. So
Mhm.
for the sake of conversation, we have some dashboards in Salesforce, and we'll have a single template that can be used for new implementations or re-implementations. But I want that dashboard to only show new implementations. So effectively, our logic would be something like, exclude that project if the re-implementation tag exists on a project. I guess my question is, can we use tags to update values in Salesforce for the purpose of filtering?
You mean like if you add within GUIDEcx a project tag, can you update something in Salesforce?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, that's possible. So that would be a separate recipe. And the way to think about that is you have one recipe per event. So this recipe right here, the event is that an opportunity is updated in Salesforce. Then I want to go and create a project. Okay, a separate event would be somebody adds a project tag to the project in GUIDEcx. So that would be a recipe that would trigger when the project's updated, and you can specify that I only want to do it if the update is that a project tag was added, and then you go do your actions like update the appropriate opportunity or account.
Okay. That makes sense. And separate question, earlier we were talking about Slack, and I'll see if we have that at our organization, but could that potentially be used as a notification signal if something fails? Like, I know if a job fails, we can see it in the dashboard, but would that also be kind of a common use case if?
Yeah, it's actually in our reference project creation recipe. So
Okay.
here's the step that that created this Slack message here, which in that case, so it's a success. So it's saying create the project and then post a message on Slack. But then in this recipe, this these three steps are in this monitor block. And it's saying here, monitor the following actions for any errors. Okay, so it's monitoring these three steps. And then it says, oh, was there an error in any of these steps? Then go here and post a message in Slack saying, hey, there was a problem while attempting to create a new project. The message is going to stay like, here's the name of the opportunity. Here's a link to the opportunity. Here's what the customer's name is and some information about what the error was.
That's
So,
fantastic.
so that could be, that could happen like if, let's say, if you look back at the project creation step, like if you had, say, the project manager. So let's say that we had set the project manager to be somebody, and it turns out, oh, hey, they don't exist in GUIDEcx, or oh, we picked the correct project manager. They do exist in GUIDEcx, but what we did was we specified in the recipe an email address right here. And like, oh, turns out that's not the email address that they use in GUIDEcx. Maybe that's the email address in Salesforce. It's not the email address in GUIDEcx. So something like that would be an example of how try to create the project, and then the recipe says, oh, there's an error because you're trying to create a project and make the project manager somebody that doesn't exist. And you would get a Slack message, and so you would know to go and correct that. And then you can just rerun the recipe after you've made that correction.
Oh, that's great.
So I can come over here. Once I've made the correction, I can go into the log of all of the jobs, bring up click on the actual job that had an error, and then click on repeat this job, and I'll just rerun. It'll rerun the latest and greatest version of the recipe, and as the inputs, it'll be the same input as before. It'll be the same, like whatever had triggered the recipe previously. It'll be all that same information from Salesforce, but it'll be run on the latest and greatest steps of the recipe.
That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you. I think I only had one more question, which is on the GUIDEcx object in Salesforce, at least at our organization, it looks like I have the ability to edit all of those fields. Is there any way to clamp that down? Let's say we just didn't want to run the risk of someone updating our projects.
Yeah, I believe you can do that. You can edit like these layouts, and you can add fields to these objects. So you just need to go over into setup and then go to the object manager. And
Okay.
there's 3 objects here that we're seeing. There's GUIDEcx project is the name of one object. Another one is GUIDEcx milestones. And then there's the other one is GUIDEcx tasks. So those are the 3 custom objects that we're writing data to. So yeah, just go explore the
Okay.
customization options in the object manager in Salesforce.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
All right.